So, Adam, how's it, my bro?
It's not too bad.
Not
It's
too
so
bad.
good to see you, André.
It sounds so British. Not too bad, not too good.
Oh, in Polish, postaremu.
Oh, okay.
It's the same as always.
So, I don't need to say welcome to the World Jazz Network and the Amersfoort World Jazz Festival because you've been here so many bloody times.
Not as many as I was planning. There was a little interruption the last few
A
years.
little one. Like, what happened?
Yeah,
It's
it's
the cocoa.
yeah, it's very hard when you're down on an island at the other end of the world.
It's quite a big island, huh?
Yeah, but there's a long way. So it's
But literally, how many times have you been here?
4 times now.
Four
Yeah, the
times.
first time in 2017, around about, I think it was about a month after I'd met Alexander.
In jazz.
No, at Jazz Ahead
Jazz Ahead,
in Bremen. And I met this man who had this idea and an invitation to the World Jazz Festival. And I was like, you know, we can invite you, you come and, you know, you get here, we look after you.
Sounds like he had a Jesus complex, this Alexander guy. So you just followed him, you were on your boat catching fish.
But it sounded like he was kind of the same kind of guy that I'm trying to be, or was trying to be in Melbourne, in Australia.
Okay. So you were aspiring to...
Yeah, and with the idea of creating a partnership with the festival, and there was an invitation, compared to most other people at Jazz Ahead who had something to sell me, this was a man who had something to offer and an open invitation. And so it makes for a very easy conversation. And that spirit was one that I was able to come with as well. And it's been something common to the friendships that I've made here, is that it is about, what can we do?
It's not like your typical music industry is like,
No.
can I suck a pint of blood out of you?
Yeah.
For nothing.
While I steal another pint while you're not
Another
looking.
organ.
Yeah.
It's not a musical one.
Yeah, totally.
That makes Alexander quite a unique person.
Yes. It makes Alexander a unique person. It makes the festival a unique event. So I haven't been for 5 years, and when I had the opportunity to come again this year, it was like, well, yeah, I'll go. I want to catch up with friends. It's a place to return to.
But you didn't just come. You in a different environment, in a different role. So it was a thing.
Yeah. I've not been playing music for the last 2 years.
Oh, wow. What have you been doing?
Data analytics, generative AI.
That's slightly removed.
Totally. It's totally removed. It draws upon many of the skills that you develop as an artist when you're trying to survive.
Like what?
Writing grants, budgets, analytical thinking when you're trying to assess grants, project management when you're running a festival, when you have to write grants and press releases and promotional material and programs. You're writing reports and dealing with your stakeholders.
And you didn't know that you were acquiring all these useful skills?
No. And so, I'd slowly been learning in the last few years and realising that in the arts, you don't necessarily get valued for them. And so, Australia is a challenging environment for the arts. There's great stuff that happens, but there's some challenges.
I thought South Africa had a lot of challenges, and Australia was like kind of utopia. And now you're telling me that's not the case.
I'm not saying it's the worst, but we do look to other countries as examples of what it could be.
Which countries?
The Netherlands, the Nordic countries, Germany. When it comes to jazz, seems to have really good support. There's, just in terms of funding, there's programs that offer more certainty, so that if you go through the process, there's you will get something at the other end of the process. The recent federal and the state where I live, those two rounds for kind of project funding, had 8% success rate for the federal, which would be record a CD, go travelling, export. For the state funding, it was 4% success rate. So, like, that becomes really a lottery. And
you stand a better chance than the lottery, don't you?
yeah, but it used to be more like around 15-20%.
So the chances of scoring at the bar has decreased.
And whereas the first time I went to Jazz Ahead, I had all of these different countries, artists from different countries saying, well, we can organise our travel if you give us 3 gigs. And there are certain countries where, yes, you can jump through the hoops knowing that it will result in being able to move forward. So, yeah. But, for me, the nice thing, trying to make it a little more positive, is because I'm getting grumpy.
Otherwise, you're going to have to get out the wine, dude.
Yeah. If you commit, and if you, one of the nice things about being in Amersfoort is you keep coming back. If you commit long term and go, yeah, I'm here this time and I know that I'm going to be here next time and I'm going to come back, then you do get welcomed in. And it's lovely seeing someone like Sylvek from Poland, who I met 25 years ago, I think, in Poland, and we were both just, much younger, kind of nobodies, sort of, and then 25 years later, we meet and discover that we've both been running festivals and become something, and there's a nice interconnectedness in the community globally.
For an audience like some of the artists that might be watching this, how is the Australian jazz ecosystem different? Festivals, conferences, venues, promoters, how is it different?
Different to
being in Amersfoort or being in the Netherlands? Not to South Africa.
No, because I have to come and do that properly.
To get properly, so you can't compare. When you come to talk, let's talk about what you know.
I feel like there's a certain similar sensibility around jazz in the Netherlands to Australia.
Sensibility, as in?
The kind of approach to making music and the there are different styles of jazz, and sort of hard New York kind of. There's smooth jazz, there's fusion-esque, and there's kind of popular or serious. And most places have a mixture of all those things, but it feels to me here it's pretty rooted in the kind of bebop, swing, kind of hard bop tradition, and quite an embrace of that. But it's serious music making with a sense of humour and a willingness to adventure. There's a strong free jazz scene in the Netherlands, and in Australia we've had a number of Dutch musicians that cross around, from William Broker, drummer Han Benink, Yuri Honing, some of these Dutch names that have been to Australia and really connected. So there's a kind of similar sensibility around what good jazz is. It does feel that there's more support for jazz in the Netherlands and in Europe more generally. More infrastructure. There are organisations.
Infrastructure, as in?
Organisations.
Venue?
Venues. We do have a number of venues. Melbourne apparently has the highest per capita number of venues in the world.
Oh.
And within a lot of them with jazz.
Okay.
And they may not have, there might be a bunch, there's at least half a dozen to almost a dozen kind of reasonably jazz dedicated venues in Melbourne. And then there's a whole bunch of they have jazz once a week or, Sunday afternoon or, as part of a mix of more artistic, jazz early in the week, rock and roll, groove.
So jazz early in the week for the oldies and the little niche, and then later in the week, electronic music for the young people.
Yeah, it just sort of varies.
Yeah.
And Monday and Tuesday might be more for the experimental things.
Okay.
Because it's cheap. the venue would not otherwise do something, so let's have the free jazz thing, and we'll at least get some people.
How does one? Because you used to run the festival. You don't run the festival anymore.
No.
How does one grow a new audience for jazz? For all these festivals that do jazz. And grow the consumption. What we managed to do, I was only at Wangaratta for 2 years, so I ran another festival before that, the Festival of Slow Music. The thing that I feel is there's a good chance it's going to represent, the crowd will probably reflect the kind of leadership of the festival. And the director of the Wangaratta Festival had done it for 27 years. And the audience were probably with him. Okay.
And so by having us, we came in, there was a new panel that I was lead artistic director of. We had somebody that was older, who'd been with the festival for a while. We had the others of us were probably 15 years, maybe a little, give or take, younger than the previous director, which just gave access to a different demographic and a different possibility of who you might connect to with artists. And for us, or particularly me, I was like, we need young musicians, because if we get them, then their friends probably can't afford to come to the festival. For the Wangaratta Festival, it was out of town. You have to commit to probably 3 nights accommodation. Sometimes the hotels push for 4 nights accommodation for a 3-day festival. But you have to pay a fair amount of money to go 3 hours from Melbourne, spend on the hotels and the food and the tickets. So there had been kind of this generation that was affluent. But you invite some young people that have some young friends that are going to sleep on the hotel room floor of their mates, bunk in a tent, or in their cars, and then they're sort of hanging out because it's cool. Their mates actually playing, and for someone who's young and appearing at a festival, which Wangaratta had the same kind of vibe as Amersfoort, and that same. We didn't call it a musician's paradise, but it was the Wang Hang.
Okay.
The Wang Hang, because you're hanging and you get to see other musicians from around Australia that you normally don't see at the other festivals.
And people from other parts of the world?
And from other parts of the... Yeah. And so you would be... Same thing here. You'd have on the main stage, you'd have the Australian acts, you'd have the internationals, you've had collaborations between these musicians, and then they're all going to the jam session afterwards. And so you're getting to see these mix of international and local collaborations, and you're hanging, having a drink, and...
Like you were doing last night when I came in, yeah.
Yes. So, I'm familiar with this. And it is these things, it's these moments where you get to meet in a casual, friendly manner, where, and a jam session's kind of cool. Sometimes they're not the best, sometimes it's a bit too competitive and ego-driven. But the good ones, it's a friendly meeting and everyone's playing their original music and presenting what they've come for, but then they can come together in this more casual meeting and share a moment playing the music that has been probably the inspiration where they started from.
And then it's more of a conversation.
Yeah.
And a dominant big swinging competition.
When they're good.
When they're good. How have the ones been so far?
Oh, yeah, no, it has been fun. Though the first night was a bit tricky because I didn't know the song and it was very fast. But I've been before, so the first time I came I was so scared to get up and play. My friend just go, you get up. Whereas this time it was like, I've been here and I know that I will be welcomed even if
And the Observant is like a serious jam session.
It's serious enough, yeah.
Do you remember that informal jam session we did in 2017 in some dingy club somewhere?
Pictures. I'm already checking. They've got a jam tomorrow night.
They've got one. Oh, that's going to be cool.
Yes.
Oh, damn, we took that place by storm.
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
Totally, yeah.
It was my best night in 2017. The morning wasn't. So you, as part of the festival, the World Jazz Network, there are other festivals also in Australia that should come here?
Yeah. Well, the Perth International Jazz Festival connected last year. No, that was with Mace Francis.
Okay.
And they were supporting a laureate this year, Jamie Ollers, who unfortunately has been unable to attend due to family circumstances. So I've been roped in as, just this week to fill in for 2 of his gigs.
You're quite a good laureate.
Yeah.
A seasoned laureate.
Yes, we'll see. Wangaratta is a little tricky because they've gone through a transition this year with a small budget. It's a very local Australian program, and I don't know when they'll engage in a more international program again. Melbourne International Jazz Festival is probably a major festival in October. There's the Perth International Jazz Festival, which is smaller, younger, but a similar kind of vibe of quite a lot of internationals and collaborations, and it's become quite a good, strong force. I feel like it's still finding, it's still probably dealing with the financial security of funding cycles in Australia, but it has been growing over the last 10 years, so that's been great. There's a couple of smaller ones. There's a Brisbane International Jazz Festival that's had a hiatus, and the director of that, Lynette Irwin, passed away a couple of years ago. She's actually got Dutch connections, having lived here, and I'm not sure it was her husband was actually a Dutch sax player, but so she was great at getting international connections, and so it's fantastic that the Brisbane International Jazz Fest is back up after a few years off.
I think all over the world, post the Coco, things went down, and now we're still busy rebuilding.
Yeah, yeah.
And some things will be there differently.
Yeah,
And some things are gone.
yeah.
But with those that are there, how do we rebuild? You spoke about the force. May the force be with you. But how do we rebuild? And what would you say to some of our friends from the south? Why they should come to either Amersfoort Jazz Festival, the World Jazz Network, and the World Jazz Conference?
It's too comfortable and easy. Like it's like there's no
Don't
reason.
come here 'cause it's too comfortable.
No, as in like there's no reason why they shouldn't come.
Yeah, but why should they come? It's far.
Because
It's not that comfortable on a plane, dude.
because it's welcoming. There are people that are up for having a conversation and are interested in how can we do something together. And in contrast, like I like going to Jazz Ahead as a great industry gathering, but and I've been to another couple of sort of showcase events where you do get pushed a whole lot of bands and you're expected to buy. Or at Jazz Ahead, you're being bombarded by people that have something to sell you.
Sure, even soliciting on the street corners.
Where here, yes, there is the potential, and there is the encouragement to buy in a way, and try and find ways to engage with the other laureates and performers here to try and look at what you might do. But it's with more of a spirit of exchange, right from the word go.
So you give me, I give you if you want.
Yeah.
It's not everybody's hustling.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it makes for easier conversations.
Especially over the bar.
Especially over the, and it is nice because you get looked after here. There is lovely hospitality, which makes it, it makes for a very positive environment when you're being cared for, when the artists are being cared for. You're listening to music played by great musicians.
Oh.
They're not necessarily the ones you know, but they're being brought by somebody who believes in them.
So it's a place of discovery.
Yeah.
So, talking about a place of discovery, man, Alex wants to build musicians' paradise.
Mm.
I want to break down all the borders in the world, to little small things.
Yeah, yeah.
And you, on the other hand, something we haven't spoken about, you've got a jazz magazine, which you still do in print. What the? Dingo.
It's started during COVID. We do it every 6 months. It's now, I should be writing the 8th edition right now.
Should be.
Yeah.
What you're going to play.
Yeah. We wanted it in print because then it's a record, it's a physical record that people can revisit easily.
Mm.
You do it online, you might reach more people, but then will they come back?
Yeah.
Will they flick through? Will somebody who's not interested see it on a coffee table and go, oh, that's an interesting thing? We wanted it to be a quality magazine. It's thick paper. It's not kind of your, dare I say, for people that might know jazz, it's not downbeat, which is on that kind of thinner, glossier paper. It's more the matte kind of art paper.
It's more classy.
We wanted to treat the music and the Australian music in a serious quality manner. We wanted to give visibility to what goes on in Australia, because there hasn't been an Australian magazine for 20 years, 25 years. So how do young artists get exposure? It's reduced in the mainstream media, there's hardly any CD reviews. You don't have the gig listings like you used to. So media's become so diffuse. There's lots of it, but where do you go? And so people don't know. And I feel like the jazz artists that I grew up being inspired by on TV and seeing in magazines are the same ones that you might see on TV now. You're not seeing young musicians getting their first shot. I got to be on TV in my early 20s in Australia, and there's none of that opportunity anymore.
Sure.
I've seen musicians getting awards as emerging artists for major prizes that have or on a list of the up and coming musicians to look out for. They're my age, you know,
and the Laureates age,
and you know, I'm 53 now. But yeah, looking at people in their late 40s to early 50s in the more mainstream media or winning a major prize, that they've been doing it for 20 to 30 years. And they've got a big back catalogue, and they're probably more famous than me. And they're being touted as the next big thing or emerging artist. And it's kind of, Dingo is about trying to just give people a platform. I like that we focus on Australians. We love to include the collaborations and the projects they do with internationals. We're having you featured in one.
Yes, and you brought me the physical copy. Thank you.
Yes,
I also like physical, tangible.
And
it exists.
It's and so part of we usually have an interview with somebody that is active in spreading the word globally, and so if we can introduce some of those people to the Australian jazz community, and then when they actually end up at Amersfoort and they go, oh, I read about this guy, now I'm actually there next to him. It's learning about those things and putting our own Australians that are doing their things, like in Amersfoort where you're seeing internationals and locals performing, collaborating. The magazine is also trying to collaborate and place people side by side so that we're not trying to say that Australians are better, but we're trying to just present Australian artists as part of the international conversation community that is this music we all do love and share.
And we do love it. Some love it more than others, so much so that they do a whole bloody magazine. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Baby Dingo.
Thank you.
And may it grow stronger and stronger.
Well, doing what we can.
Okay. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, André.
You performing this evening?
Yes.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
You're waiting for your sax to arrive.
Yes, one has arrived, the other not. But Alexander has loaned me one that will, and I'm being a little greedy. I brought one and then was getting two more because suddenly, a soprano is fine, but when you're...
saxes can you play at one time?
When you're doing Coltrane, you need to play a bit of tenor saxophone. And then the feature gig tomorrow, there's some music that I play on alto. So
you're a bit like that in English. You're going to go from gig to gig and play to play and end up at the jam session.
Check
you at the jam session
and then Bruges, hard is Bruges afterwards for the...
pitches, we're going to pitches.
Well, yeah, but we go first for the shawarma.
Oh, for the shawarma, yes. I saw the picture yesterday.
I get it with...
Brukjes, not Bruges. Brukjes.